You all may be seated. Mr. Hermes, please call the next witness.
The state of Texas calls Torey Dugas.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, ma'am.
Thank you. Please make yourself comfortable.
All right, good morning, Officer Dugas. Would you please state your full name for the court's reporter and spell it for him?
Torey Dugas, Toreydugas.
And your last name is pronounced Duga?
Dugas, yes, sir.
Duga.
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. I'm sorry, I've been calling you Officer Dugas.
It's fine.
You were kind enough not to correct me.
It's
I'll be more careful. Would you introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Tell them what it is that you do for a living, sir.
My name is Torey Dugas. I'm a Dallas police officer. I'm currently assigned to the South Central Patrol Unit.
How long have you been a Dallas police officer?
4 years.
Okay, and so you're in a patrol capacity right now?
Yes, sir.
So give the jury an idea, what does a Dallas patrol officer do?
Currently, we go out and answer calls is our primary objective. Anything from car accidents to, the more serious calls. That's our primary objective.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
I want to take you right away to September the 6th of 2018, okay?
Yes, sir.
Let's get right to work. On that particular day, were you working in the evening in your patrol capacity?
Yes, sir.
All right, were you with a partner or were you alone?
I was with a partner,
Okay, what was your partner's name?
Roberto Guzman.
Okay. And did something around 10 o'clock p.m., did something out of the ordinary happen?
Yes, sir. An officer assist came out.
Okay, tell the jury what an officer assist is.
An officer assist is basically an officer's in need for us to come to him or her and lights and sirens immediately.
Okay. And was this, in response to a report to dispatch?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it was dispatch who received the call and then dispatched you on that officer assist?
Yes, sir.
Where were you guys? Like, where were you coming from?
At that time, we were just north of downtown. I believe I was typing a report for a previous call when the assist came out.
Okay. Do you remember who was driving?
My partner was driving that day.
Okay. Once you got to the location, did you then proceed to the apartment that dispatch had identified?
Yes. So we immediately got to the lofts and entered through the parking garage.
The apartment complex itself, would you describe the perimeter of it? It's hard to get into. It's got a lot of security features. Is that right?
Correct. I believe there's only one entrance in and out. It's a rather wide driveway, and then the gate it's secured. It's locked.
Okay. So the gate where the cars would go through, was that a large metal gate that wouldn't let cars through unless you had one of the key fobs that lets you have access?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And as far as like the entrances to the complex itself, were those through locked gates as well?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So for a stranger who doesn't live there or have access, would it be easy to get in or hard?
It'd be difficult.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Officer Dugas?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you his remark for identification, the state's exhibit number 8. This is the body-worn camera video. Were you wearing a body-worn camera on September the 6th?
Yes, sir.
And I've shown you the contents of this before. Does this fairly and accurately depict what your body cam picked up on that call at the Southside Flats?
Yes, sir.
Did you make any additions, deletions, or alterations?
No, sir.
All right, I offer state's exhibit number 8.
It's at the,
Permission to publish?
yes, sir.
Officer Dugas, I'm going to do this with the camera. I'm going to play it uninterrupted
Okay.
once I start so that the jury can see everything without me interrupting them. And then if I have specific questions about certain portions of it, I'll come back and play it for them later. Before we actually start, though, there are 2 hallways. Do you recall there being 2 hallways at the Southside Flats?
Yes, sir.
Like a U-shape?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So some officers, like Officer Lee, they went down the further hallway, right?
Correct.
You went down the main hallway of the complex, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, now go ahead and publish state's exhibit number 8 now.
Yes, sir.
Would Your Honor produce the lighting?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a few questions before I play it again, Judge. All right, officer, I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification. States Exhibit 25, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Let's just start with, these are going to be stills taken from your body-worn camera in the 5 minutes and 23 seconds that it plays. Do you agree that these are fair and accurate depictions, stills of your body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
And I represent to the court there's been no change in the lighting conditions of these, or stills directly from the body-worn camera. I offer States Exhibit number 25 and then 27 through 30.
Objection. Very minute.
Permission to publish?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to show you States Exhibit number 25 first. Officer Dugas, when you got off on the... Actually, Judge, oh, that's perfect. When you got off the elevator, you guys went to the 4th floor, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you happen to know, either from before or since, whose white Dodge pickup truck that is parked there?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll just use that as a place marker then. That Dodge pickup truck is going to be in front of this particular post, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And this area where my fingers are right now, do those lead to a breezeway that connects the apartment garage to the apartment complex?
I believe so, yes, sir.
And over here, is that where the elevator is?
Correct, yes, sir.
States Exhibit number 27. And I appreciate that it's blurry. It's off of your body-worn camera, and if you're in motion, you understand it does that?
Yes, sir.
Can you see, though, again, using the post as a benchmark now, so you know where the post is, where's that white truck?
It would be behind us.
Right, almost directly behind you,
Correct, yes, sir.
And this officer, I don't know who that is, but is he walking in towards the direction of the complex itself?
Yes, sir.
All right. What is this right here?
I believe that was just the side of the building.
The roof of the building, right?
Yes, sir.
And then States Exhibit number 28. Again, using the post as a benchmark. Is this going to be the elevator?
Yes, sir.
Remember, there's a glare from that. Could you just turn down one? What is this over here?
That's the other side of the building with the roof.
Your Honor, may I publish this to the jury? The Elmo, the lighting is not picking up the photograph. Would you pass it around? I'm just going to give them a second to take a look at that.
Which exhibit is that?
It's going to be States Exhibit number 28, Your Honor. Does that appear to be light switches?
Yes, sir.
All right, and those light switches, are those directly inside the front door to this apartment?
Yes, sir.
Is this, the light switch is just from a different angle?
Yes.
Okay, showing exactly its proximity to the front door to this particular apartment complex.
Yes, sir.
So, if you were standing at the door, or you were coming through the door, if you wanted more or less light or any degree in between, that light switch is directly right where your right arm would be if you're coming in.
Correct, yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge. All right, I'm going to publish Your Honor State's Exhibit number 8 again, starting at 3:53 minutes into it. Officer Dugas, this is you coming down. I need you to orient me if I'm wrong, okay?
Yes, sir.
This is you coming down the first main hallway to turn left to go down the second main hallway. Am I correct as far as location?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to pause it at 3 minutes and 56 seconds. Is it clear to you there's no large decorative object right here at this location?
Correct.
And there's a good perspective at 4 minutes in of the length of the two hallways. They're a fairly good distance. You have a lot of opportunity if you want to pick up on things. If you are paying attention, there's a lot to perceive.
Object to relevance and speculation.
I'm asking him for his experience, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. They're both hallways are pretty long.
Thank you, Officer Dugas. I'll pass the witness.
I have a moment, Your Honor. I have a, yes, sir. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Officer Dugas, someone punched a button to go up to the 4th floor, and when the elevator stopped, you knew you were on the 4th floor, correct?
Yes, sir.
You didn't question it, did you?
No, sir.
Were you looking for landmarks to see what floor you were on, or you just knew you were on the 4th floor?
I just followed the other officers and believed we were on the 4th floor.
Okay. I'm showing you what's been pre-admitted as State's Exhibits 70 and 86. And do you know if these are different floors or not?
No, sir.
Do they look exactly the same?
Other than the scooter, yes, sir.
Right. So you weren't relying on landmarks or anything other than you punched 4 and you knew you were on the 4th floor, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
And so, did you ever go to the 3rd floor, 2nd floor, 1st floor? Or 3rd or 2nd floors?
No, sir.
So you don't know whether the 3rd floor matches exactly the same as the 4th floor?
No, sir. I wouldn't know.
Did you even notice the numbers? Do you recall?
As far as like the numbers on the door, or the
There were no numbers on the door, were there?
not that I recall. I don't remember looking at numbers
Okay.
at all.
So you were going to wherever the activity was, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
The prosecutor asked you whether the apartment complex was hard to get in for a stranger who didn't live there, it would be difficult to get in, and you said yes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Apartment complexes, people who live in homes, we all try to make it as difficult as possible for strangers that we don't want in our house to get there, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
But criminals somehow, sometimes, many times, that's what you respond to often, have found ways to get into difficult places where they're not wanted, correct?
Yes, sir.
The prosecutor showed you there were lights to the right of the, when you entered the doorway of 1478, correct?
Yes.
Do you have a mounted light on your gun?
No, sir.
Some officers do, some don't, but Dallas Police Department does not issue you a mounted light on your handgun, correct?
Correct.
And so if you are in a dark area and you're confronted with an immediate threat to your life, is your response to draw your handgun?
Yes, sir.
If you believe that there's a deadly threat that's
Yes, sir.
threatening you.
Yes, sir.
And while it would be optimal to have as much light as possible, is your focus protecting your own life at that point?
Yes, sir.
And would it be irresponsible, or would it be proper weapon handling techniques to manipulate objects while holding a loaded handgun? In other words, would you want to do other things with your gun, like touch objects or turn on lights, or would you want to focus on what it's meant to do, is to hold it and protect yourself?
Hold it and protect yourself. Yes, sir.
And how do you, when you load your weapon and you carry it, how do you load it? Like, how many bullets are in your magazine?
15.
And then do you put one in the chamber?
And there's one in the chamber. Yes, sir.
15 plus 1, and is that common? Is that how you are trained and how every Dallas police officer is expected to carry their weapon?
Yes, sir.
And the prosecutor showed you those still shots. Did you notice those things in live time, or was it only after it was pointed out to you? Like the roof line and those things?
Well, I noticed them. Well, I was on the perimeter after everything while the investigators were working, so I noticed it at that point because I was standing on that breezeway.
But when you were going to...
No, I wasn't paying attention to that, no, sir.
Nothing further.
Officer Dugas, when it comes to a mounted light on a firearm, whether you choose to have one or not, that's DPD's discretion that they give to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
But all of you officers carry flashlights, right?
Yes, sir.
And if you want or feel the need to use a flashlight, it's on your utility belt. You can pull it out and use it if you choose to use it.
Correct, yes, sir.
And you're also taught, are you not, how to use a flashlight with a shooting position if you have to both use a handgun and a flashlight.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that deals with that. The other question that I just wanted to elaborate on that Mr. Rogers asked you was whether or not if you had your gun out, if you wanted to do something else with your gun hand. But most people have two hands, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Do you know the defendant to have two hands?
Yes, sir.
All right. So if you are walking into an apartment, or even if you're outside and you want to peek into an apartment, and you know exactly where the lights are because you live in an identical apartment, and if you want more light, would you use your left hand for your safety and also to reveal the person inside?
Yes, sir.
Would you, here's a better question, would you, if it's to your advantage, would you use light sources available to you, whether it be a light switch or a flashlight or a mounted light on a firearm?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass Mr. Dugas.
And all of those require an optimal where you have two free hands, correct?
Yes, sir.
So to use a flashlight with a gun, you're using two hands, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we can go through 100 scenarios with you. I'm not going to belabor the point, but the scenarios that he just talked to you about require two free hands, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
Nothing further.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Dugas.
Thank you, Steve.
No objection from the state, Your Honor.
Subject to recall.
All right, please make yourself available should the attorneys need to recall.
Yes, ma'am.
State calls Officer Barnett. Change of plans. The state of Texas is going to call Sgt Breanna Valentine.
Sergeant Valentine.
Yes, Your Honor.
affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Make yourself comfortable.
All right, well, good morning, Sergeant. How are you today?
Good morning, good.
We've met each other on a couple of occasions. It's good to see you again.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Would you go ahead and let the court reporter know what your full name is and go ahead and spell it for her?
Breanna, B-R-E-A-N-N-A, Valentine, V-A-L-E-N-T-I-N-E.
And would you let the ladies and gentlemen of the jury know how you're employed, please?
I'm a sergeant with the Dallas Police Department.
And how long have you been a Dallas with, or a sergeant with DPD?
I've been a sergeant for 1 year.
Okay. And tell the jury, what does a sergeant do?
We're responsible for our troops and when they're out at scenes, what they're doing. If decisions need to be made out there that they haven't made yet or that we feel are necessary, we'll go in and we'll make those decisions and help process whatever scenes that we've got.
Okay. So y'all are like the first level of command above the patrol officers out on the field, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And let's just get right down to September the 6th. Okay, you were a sergeant at that time?
Correct.
All right. And what part of Dallas were you assigned to?
I was assigned to the Central Business District.
Okay, is that going to be where the Southside Flats is located?
No, it's not.
All right. Where the Southside Flats apartment complex, what channel in Dallas is that?
They technically fall on one, which would be Central proper.
Okay. And is that location, the Southside Flats, in Dallas County, state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
You were in a marked patrol car that particular evening, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And where were you parked when this call was dispatched?
At the 7-Eleven next door.
Literally how far away is the 7-Eleven from the Southside Flats?
It shares a fence.
Okay, so essentially they touch each other.
Correct.
Okay. And once that call came out, was that an officer assist or had it not yet been upgraded to an officer assist?
It had not been upgraded yet.
All right. Did you go ahead and respond immediately to the Southside Flats in response to that call?
Yes, I did.
Was that response captured on your in-car camera system?
Yes.
Have I shown you your in-car camera system since that day?
Yes.
All right, and this is going to be State's Exhibit number 10. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of your squad car as it existed on September the 6th, 2018?
Yes.
Did you make any kind of additions, alterations, or deletions to it?
No.
For State's 10.
That's Valentine's.
In-car video system?
Yeah, just a second, Judge.
Sure. Permission to publish?
Yes.
All right, Sarge, are we looking pretty much outside your front windshield?
Yes.
Okay. And at the bottom where my cursor is, does this indicate the time, 22:01:17?
Yes.
All right, so that's going to be 10:01:17.
Correct.
That's the 7-Eleven that you're pulling away from?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to pause that at 22:01:48. Is that the Southside Flats apartment complex right here?
Yes, sir.
Your in-car camera system allows you to switch from front view to also a camera mounted on the inside, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's going to be allowing me to switch between camera 1 That's camera 1 and the other one is camera 2. Is that accurate?
Yes,
So you've arrived, your response time was relatively quick, is that right?
that's correct.
Okay. And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you did after you arrived?
When I arrived, I got out of the car. I saw 2 other officers in front of me. I followed them. We went through the complex trying to get inside. Finally, I believe it was the 3rd gate that we tried, someone opened it for us, and we're able to get in and go upstairs and get to the scene of the location.
Okay. So were you one of the first officers that actually made it to apartment 1478?
Yeah, I believe I was 3rd or 4th through the door.
Okay, and then tell me, who came after you?
I couldn't say for sure. I know when I went back outside, another sergeant had shown up, and I asked him to manage the crime scene while I went downstairs.
Okay,
But I don't recall who exactly came in right after me.
okay. And was the defendant inside the apartment or near the apartment when you went in?
Yes, inside.
She was inside.
Yes.
What did she do and what did you do as y'all crossed paths?
When I walked inside, she was inside. I could see the complainant with 2 officers performing CPR. I asked them, had anyone done a protective sweep yet of the apartment just to clear for any other threats? At that point, I did not know what was going on. They said they had not, so I swept the apartment. There was no one else in the apartment. When I came back into the front room, I asked them if they needed anything or what I could do. They were asking about first aid. So I went to the bathroom, didn't see a first aid kit, grabbed some hand towels, brought them back out. They told me they were good. I went back outside with the defendant, and then I took her immediately downstairs once the other sergeant showed up.
Okay. Now approach the witness again, Judge.
Yes.
All right, one of the officers who arrived shortly after you, are you familiar with Officer Wynn?
Not personally.
Okay. I'm going to show you some photographs. There's some stills taken off of that body-worn camera. States 11, 12, 13, and 14. Do you see yourself in those photographs as well?
I do.
Okay. And do you see Amber Guyger in the hallway with, that's Officer Dong Nam, is that right? Do you know him?
Yes, I do know Nam.
And I better spell that, D-O-N-G-N-A-M. So when these stills were taken, this was while you had stepped out of 1478, and Amber Guyger, the defendant, was in the hallway at that time, correct?
Correct.
All right, I offer States Exhibits 11, 12, 13, and 14. Do these fairly and accurately depict the condition in the hall at that moment in time?
Yes.
As you recall it?
Yes.
Permission to publish?
Yes, sir.
All right, Sergeant, I'm showing you States Exhibit number 11. And is that going to be you peeking outside of apartment 1478?
Yes, sir.
All right, and who is this person right here? Is that Amber Guyger?
I believe it is.
Okay, you can't tell.
It's a little fuzzy.
States Exhibit number 12. Yeah. Can you tell now because of the hair bun?
Yeah.
That's Amber Guyger?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. United States Exhibit number 14. What is Amber Guyger doing at that particular moment of time?
It appears she's on the phone.
Okay. So let me just see if I can appreciate the relative timing of things. You just testified that there are 2 officers on the inside who are actively trying to save Mr. Jean's life, right?
Correct.
Now, and to her credit, she's been asked to step outside, so she's not in the way. But her condition at the time, she's in the hallway on her phone.
Correct.
All right, so can you help us, then tell us, give us an idea also what happened after that?
When the way the call came out, it came out as a shooting. En route to the call, I heard the words over the radio, "Shouldn't this be an assist?" which would mean an officer's in trouble. When I put those two together and I got up there, I never heard the comments on the call sheet. I never read the call sheet. So I did not know what we had fully once I got up there. I recognized it's an officer-involved shooting, and I know that the involved officer needs to be removed immediately from the scene. So once the second sergeant showed up that could work the scene at the apartment, I took the involved officer downstairs to take away from the scene.
Okay, and by involved officer, do you mean the defendant?
Yes, sir.
And you see her in court right now?
Yes, sir.
Would you point to her and tell me what she's wearing?
She's wearing a white sweater.
All right, let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant in open court. Do you recognize that person to be Amber Guyger?
Yes, sir.
When you got to the doorway of 1478, were her keys dangling in that door at the time?
There were a set of keys in the doorway at that time.
All right, did that indicate to you that somebody had put keys in the door?
Yes.
All right, and are you aware of what that particular lock function, how it performs when you stick a key in it? Do you know?
To be honest, no.
Good.
I've never dealt with that.
I appreciate you being honest. We'll get that from some other witness then. But the keys were dangling in the door as if somebody put them in the door.
That's correct.
Was the door fully closed or was it slightly ajar when you got there?
It was ajar.
Okay, did there appear to be any signs whatsoever of forced entry?
No, sir.
It appeared the door had been kicked in.
No, sir.
Did the door frame appear to be shattered or in distress in some way?
No, sir.
And then I think you've depicted what happened as far as your immediate response. You identified that Amber Guyger was involved in this, and then what was it? You took her downstairs, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was it that you were attempting to do at that point?
Just to seclude her and get her away from everything until the detective showed up and could work the investigation.
Okay. Is that important in criminal investigations? Well, let me ask you this. Had you already made an association that Amber Guyger had shot this individual?
Yes.
Okay. You don't know what the circumstances are, do you?
No.
It could be a cold-blooded homicide, right?
Correct.
It could be that she walked in and found the body. You don't know what the circumstances are, but you've got a nearly dead body.
Correct.
Okay. And if you shoot somebody or kill them, that is a criminal offense in the state of Texas, isn't that right?
I'm going to object to leading, and
I'll rephrase, Your Honor.
And whatever,
I'll leave
let's
it.
say, sustain, rephrase.
Do you know what the definition of murder is in the state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
Would intentionally or knowingly shooting somebody constitute an offense?
I'm going to object, Judge, that she's not. The question is limited. She's not qualified as an expert, and there needs to be more facts ascertained. It's not relevant based on what's been asked so far.
I'll rephrase the question anyway, Judge.
Thank you.
If you come up on the scene, and you've got a dead person on the ground, and you know who shot him, and you don't know what the circumstances are, is that person being taken into custody?
I wouldn't say always custody until you determine that that is the person that committed the offense.
Okay, and once you've determined that person has cause for the person to be dead, is that person going to be detained and taken into custody for investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And then you said that you wanted to take Miss Guyger to a place where she would be secluded.
Correct.
What's the benefit of doing that?
It keeps other people from hearing conversations and from being able to access anybody else.
Could it be beneficial so that the person who might have committed a crime doesn't fabricate a story?
Judge, object to leading.
No, that's good. I was gonna say, that's not legal.
I disagree.
Okay.
Sustained.
Is it important to you to maintain seclusion so that stories can't be changed?
Correct.
So where did you put Ms. Guyger?
Into my squad car.
And is that also captured on State's Exhibit number 10, the in-car video recording?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to fast forward to that part. It's going to be, I'm going to move forward, Your Honor, on this State's Exhibit to 22. I'm going to begin publication again of this State's Exhibit at 22:15:39. All right, I'm going to stop publication at 22:16:22. All of those, first of all, who's in the middle of that half circle?
Could you back it up just a hair? It's the defendant.
She's hugging somebody now.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it at 22:16:27. As far as your efforts to seclude her, would you agree that prior to you doing that, she has not been secluded?
That's correct.
Okay, do you even know who those people are?
At the time, I did not. And when I went to get my squad car, I did not see them. But when I pulled my squad car up, I did.
Okay. Do you know who those people are now?
I do now.
Who are they?
They are officers.
Okay. Are they friends of hers?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Are any of those members, do you know, with the Dallas Police Association or the Dallas Union?
That I don't know.
Judge, may we approach?
Pause.
You're on pause in publication at 22:16:45.
All right, you all may be seated. Let the record reflect the jury has been removed from the courtroom. And Mr. Rogers, I'm going to let you note your objections to, I forgot what exhibit number this is, the in-car video of Sgt. Valentine.
Yes, ma'am. It's going to be State's Exhibit number 10. Your Honor.
Okay.
My objection is if the prosecutor elicits testimony about the defendant contacting the Dallas Police Association, the Dallas Police Association representative showing up. The reason that the Dallas Police Association has contacted us is because there's lawyers that contract with the Dallas Police Association to respond two officer-involved shootings that Mr. Hermes is aware of, as he's seen in hundreds of these, or tens of these. And so it's a comment on my client's Sixth Amendment, Fifth Amendment rights to have an attorney and efforts to get an attorney there. And so any comments regarding that, eliciting that, are improper comments on her right to an attorney. And also relevance, Judge. I don't know, it doesn't make any fact more or less likely. So it's not relevant for 401, and it's under 403, its prejudicial effect is substantially outweighed by any probative value.
Mr. Hermes, what remains on this video, and what is your purpose for showing the rest of it?
Okay, so Your Honor, this is the relevance and purpose for publication. Standard practice, as has been testified, is that a person is confined so that their stories can't be changed or fabricated, that they are placed away from other individuals. That was not the practice here. Secondly, in this particular case, unlike the normal operating procedure of the Dallas Police Department for anybody else, usually detectives do not tell persons who are suspected of being involved in offenses not to talk. Amber Guyger was repeatedly told not to talk. Ms. Guyger was made aware as she was being put inside the police car that the in-car system was rolling. Again, that is not common for anybody else. Ms. Guyger was told, just don't say anything. Then, Your Honor, after that, shortly after that, the president of the Dallas Police Association shows up. He walks up to the car that Ms. Guyger has been put in by the sergeant, because when she saw the condition, she put the officer in the car so that the officer would be separated for any possible influence. I'm not suggesting they did influence, but there's a reason for that practice. Well, the president of the Dallas Police Association walks right up to the car, opens the door, and takes Ms. Guyger out of the car, and then walks her away from it. As a matter of fact, he goes up to the car several times, and they're off screen. I can't hear what they're saying. It doesn't really matter what they're saying. I think that that is also a big deviation in what would be allowed in any other case, but for the fact that Ms. Guyger was a police officer. Before the Dallas Police Association president did that, he told this sergeant to turn off the in-car video, which this wasn't. Now, let me just say this. Mr. Rogers is right. There is a situation that the district attorney's office has long acknowledged and respected of a companion officer situation. When an officer has been in an officer-involved shooting, there will be an opportunity for that officer to be given respect and privacy when she wants to speak with her companion officer or with her attorney. In those situations, we absolutely do shut off the in-car video system, and even if it were inadvertently running, which has happened, we honor that, and we don't watch it and we disclose it. This wasn't that situation. She was alone in that car for several minutes, and I believe that it was inappropriate for anyone to tell this sergeant to turn off that in-car system. That's not what's typically done. Again, in many, many cases that we've all prosecuted, it has been the tactic of the police officer to put an individual in a car and leave that video running so that evidence that either hurts or helps them can be adduced and used in that regard. So all of these things were not followed on that night, and I think that that shows that this investigation from the very beginning treated Amber Guyger differently because she was a police officer. And I think that that has a bearing on the partiality or impartiality of those investigating her.
Yes, Mr. Rogers.
Judge, just none of that was in my client's control, and so she didn't ask for any of that. She didn't control any of that. The purpose is to inflame the jury and about aspects that are completely out of my client's control regarding how things are handled in situations.
These allegations that you make, Mr. Hermas, are they caught on this State's Exhibit 10?
Well, yes, ma'am, to some extent. For example, Ms. Guyger obviously has not been sequestered in this video, and you will, when it comes to her exposure to outside influence, you will see that not only on this video, but also on a video that the apartment complex has provided to us, all of which is returned over to the defense. As far as the DPA president arriving at the scene, yes, ma'am, you will see him on the other video. You'll see the door open on State's Exhibit number 10, and he puts his head in and he has Amber Guyger come out. On the other video on State's Exhibit 15, you can see him indicating to Sgt Valentine to turn off the in-car, and Sgt Valentine has been interviewed by me before, and I have every expectation that her testimony today is that she was told to turn off the in-car. So everything that I've said, I believe, is going to be corroborated by the video.
No, we object to State's Exhibit 15, so he's talking about things you see on State's Exhibit 15 in addition to 10.
So State's Exhibit 15, Your Honor, is going to be, you can't really see it, but well, you kind of can. Right up on the roof of this carport, I don't have anything I can point to. Anyway, there's a video camera, almost right above the defendant's head, a little bit behind her. That video camera recorded this entire interaction from an elevated view.
Is that State's Exhibit 15?
15, Your Honor, and I've also shown that to Ms. Valentine, to Sgt Valentine, and Sgt Valentine has indicated to me that that is a fair and accurate depiction of the scene, as well as State's Exhibit number 10.
One question, because I'm going to take a break and watch the rest of this video, and I would also like to see State's Exhibit 15, possibly. Well, maybe not in as much as it hasn't been offered or admitted. The alleged president of the Dallas Police Association, does he outrank Sgt Valentine?
No, ma'am, he does not. They're co-equal.
Is he a sergeant as well?
He is. Is that right, Ms. Valentine?
No, he does outrank me
Okay.
because he's been a sergeant longer than I have.
So, for purposes of the record, although you are both sergeants in seniority, he does outrank you?
He is senior to me.
Thank you for clearing that up.
So you were you required to follow his direction?
It wasn't as a direct order. The statement wasn't given as a direct order.
There was a statement made to you before Ms. Guyger was removed from your vehicle?
I don't recall if it was before she was removed.
Is it on the video?
You can't hear the statement. You see him indicating to her to cut off the in-car, then you see Ms. Valentine with some words. I don't know what the words were. And then you see Sgt Valentine reach into the car, and at that point the in-car recording ceases.
Excuse me. How many more minutes are on State's Exhibit 10?
It looks like it's going to be another 5 minutes and 41 seconds on State's Exhibit number 10.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 10 has already been admitted into evidence. Okay, you all may sit down. Please resume playing State's Exhibit number 10.
I will, Your Honor, and what I'd like to do, though, is in a moment, Ms. Guyger, the defendant, is going to walk to the passenger side of the car. At that point, I was going to flip to camera's angle 2.
That's fine.
You want to keep it rolling? Yeah, keep it rolling. Okay.
helpful, I can fast forward to 2222 when I believe the individual I've discussed before shows up.
I'll just let it play.
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor, I would like to just bring one thing to your attention too. Sergeant Valentine, did you hear you call out to Mike at the very end? Do you know who that individual was that just reached in and had this
No,
hearing?
not offhand, not by the video.
Okay, I want you to listen.
I heard someone call out.
Mike. I'm going to play it again. And at that point, was the in-car video stopped by some mechanical action that you made?
Yes,
Did you push a button stopping it?
yes.
Your Honor, at this time, for purposes at least of this particular consideration of the court, I'd like to offer for record purposes State's Exhibit number 15, and I can publish that to the court if he wishes.
Do you have any objections, Mr. Rogers?
He's offering it just for purposes of this hearing.
Yes.
No.
All right, so on Sergeant Valentine, this is you arriving, correct? That was you running through the carport?
Yes,
This was you going to apartment 1478.
yes.
All right, I'm going to fast forward to 2218. All right, is this going to be after the fact? I'll tell you what, I'm going to...
Can you back it up further?
Yeah, I'll do it to where she gets in the car. Your Honor.
That's just go from when she backs up and drives in,
Okay.
so I don't have to assume what happened.
The individual we discussed earlier coming up.
Can you back that up about 20 seconds?
Good, I can tell you at this point here, there's going to be another 3 minutes and 45 seconds without anything of consequence, and then Mr. Mott is going to go, it's going to go back to the car at 22, 25, 40, and he's going to remain in the car for another several minutes. You want me to just let this play out?
When you say going back to the car, is the door open and there's conversation, or is he just standing by the car?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, just fast forward to when he returns to the car. Can you back it up so we can see how it is that door came to be open? And just so I'm clear, this entire time since the president arrived, the in-car video has been turned off.
Yes, ma'am. When he made that indication to Sgt. Valentine, and Sgt. Valentine reached into her car, that corresponds with the other in-car video, which shows the recording system was shut off at that moment. Yeah, but that was much earlier, right? Your Honor's aware of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Is he perchance also a licensed attorney?
I do not believe he's a licensed attorney.
Because by that time, he contacted an attorney on behalf of Ms. Guyger, and they know the attorney is on his way, and so she's exercised her right to have a lawyer by that time. She talked to the attorney by 10:10, so she knew the attorney was on the way. And any other, that's what was going on. They're waiting for a lawyer to get there.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, my response to that would be whether or not Ms. Guyger or anyone on her behalf contacted an attorney, there's no expectation of privacy in a police vehicle. No expectation of privacy was conferred upon her until such time as that individual instructed or advised or suggested that the in-car video recording system be cut off.
And she asked whether she should keep it on, and Sgt. Valentine ordered her to keep it on. So she's following orders, but which she's being basically told you don't have a right to turn it off, basically, even though you're going to possibly communicate with your lawyer.
There was no lawyer on the scene.
At this time, he's on his way.
And she's aware of her right to remain silent, is she not?
Yes.
I can tell you nothing else of consequence happens, Judge.
There are no other officers that visit?
I mean, the door remains open. It's been a long time since I've watched it beyond this point. I believe at some point that they moved the squad car, and then as soon as Ms. Guyger's, as soon as the defendant's companion officer arrives, if I'm not mistaken, she's placed in another car, at which point there is an agreement that we do not go into that territory. So that would have been respected, and there would be no reason for us to inquire. But I can't tell you exactly when that happens. You're going to see later on the detectives arrive. I can represent to the court that the detectives were unaware that what you just saw happen had happened. I certainly am not suggesting to the court that this is sanctioned policy of the Dallas Police Department. I don't know what their policy is in this regard. However, I can tell you that from the testimony already elicited, I believe that this conduct departs from how anybody other than police officers are treated, and I think that that goes to the investigation. Mostly since right out of the gate, Mr. Rogers said that this investigation was somehow corrupted because of our rush to judgment. You know? District Attorney's Office was not on the scene for this. We were later, but we weren't on the scene for this.
Is that the president again?
I don't know, Judge. I can't tell from that angle. You're talking about the gentleman standing by the passenger door?
Yes, sir.
I can't tell, Judge.
Okay. Okay. We can pause it if there's nothing else of consequence. Sergeant Valentine, did you believe you were departing from protocol when you turned off the in-car video?
No, I did not. And I can explain that if you would like.
Yes, please.
In our body-worn camera policies, when our officers speak to a supervisor, they will make notification on body-worn camera that they're speaking to a supervisor about the case, and that's not recorded. This being an incident where there's a supervisor going to talk to someone, and hey, I made notification to him that the in-car camera's rolling. He said, that's not supposed to happen. Like, that's not supposed to be going right now. And so that's why I turned it off. And to me, I thought it was a mistake on my part, is what I thought.
So you believe you were in error to have began the in-car video at all?
I did.
Now, Mr. Hermes, if I'm correct, I'm trying to recall the line of questioning that you had from Ms. Valentine, Sergeant Valentine, before Mr. Rogers interrupted.
I believe, Judge, I had asked her, this was before Sergeant Valentine got out of her car. Well, actually, it was after, where she was bringing the defendant back towards her car. And I asked her if she knew who those individuals were. And she indicated that she didn't know at the time. And I asked her whether or not any of those individuals were friends or members of DPA. And that's, I think, when somewhere around there is when Mr. Rogers objected.
And I assume it is your desire, since we've already admitted State's Exhibit 10, to play it in its entirety.
Yes.
But I'm wondering and concerned about the line of questioning that you would have, at least in reference to this last portion that we've been watching and debating.
Concerning the fact that another sergeant told her to turn off the in-car video system?
Yes.
My line of questioning with Sergeant Valentine would be, well, especially in light of what you two just discussed, while an officer is allowed to have certain private conversations off of body cam with another officer, this particular situation was not Amber Guyger on duty discussing a call or a private matter with another officer investigating a case. In this particular occasion, the defendant is a suspect or a person involved in what is going to become a homicide, which they all realize the severity of the injury. So this is not two officers responding to a scene where one officer wants to go up to the other and say, hey, I think this guy is lying, or I think this person here's got more to say, and they want that to be private. That is perfectly understandable as far as the body-worn camera program and the policies and procedures employed with that. It's my understanding, and I would ask Sergeant Valentine this, on situations where a person is in custody, detained or in custody, and they're placed inside a squad car, it is regular, it's not unusual for that in-car to continue running for the purposes of the collection of anything of evidentiary value. The individual in the car sits there and remains quiet, it's neutral. If the person sits in the car and starts talking out loud about, the event, that is not a privileged communication. If the person says something that's exculpatory and helps them, then that becomes information that the defense is absolutely entitled to use. So I think we're talking about two different situations here.
In your objection, Mr. Rogers, I believe you said that that line of questioning was going to comment on her right to counsel.
Well, it's improper impeachment on her because she didn't have any, it's impeaching her character, using its improper character evidence and its improper impeachment against her when she has no control over any of this. All she did was she asked if she could turn it off. She was told by a supervisor, no, you can't. And so that was the only thing in Amber Guyger's control.
I believe we stopped this and had our sidebar discussion because you intimated that the rest of the video would impinge on her right to counsel and be a commentary concerning her request for counsel. I haven't seen a request for counsel. I haven't seen anything about counsel in this video.
On this video, 15?
No, what I've watched here in 10.
On 10? Just to play the video on 10, there's nothing objectionable, but to add commentary that's something untoward or that she is has a role in something untoward or something that they can't even show that there was any improper statements made to her, then it's impugning her character for something she doesn't control. And State's Exhibit 15 is not relevant. It doesn't even, it barely shows her getting in and out of the squad car, but that has nothing to do with what happened in apartment 1478. It doesn't have anything to do that makes the matter more or less relevant in an issue in this case. And from that point on, Mike Mott told her, and she's talked to her lawyer. She knows her lawyer is on his way. So all this, my defense to this is that she's waiting for a lawyer, and Mike Mott is preserving her Fifth and Sixth Amendment rights in his role as the Dallas Police Association president.
I don't think he has the right to preserve her rights, but I'm concerned about what the line of questioning will be to Sgt Valentine concerning the video, whatever was left of State's Exhibit 10. And we haven't laid the foundation or offered State's Exhibit 15, though I have viewed it.
I've offered it for record, Judge. And there's been no objection.
For purposes of this hearing, well, for this hearing,
Right.
or discussion, he didn't have any objection.
Right.
Rightfully so.
And I can give a proffer if the court would like as to what my questioning would be.
That I would very much like to hear.
All right, Ms. Valentine, I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? When you first pull your squad car in, the defendant is surrounded by a bunch of individuals and you don't know what their relationship or their role to the case is, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so she has not been sequestered or detained or removed from outside influence. Is that correct?
I thought she was when I left her where she was to walk back to my squad car. And clearly I didn't see them walk up. I thought I had left her alone. There was only a handful of us at the scene, and where my car was a long way away from where the offense location was. I reasonably thought she was alone. As I went to my car, I never saw them walk up.
And I'm not suggesting that was an error on your part?
Yeah, when I pulled up is when I saw them and realized that they were officers.
So the opportunity to go to her occurred when you had passed, but nevertheless, external individuals went up to, and there was clearly, you can tell the implication from the hand movements and the hugs and everything, that there's conversation ongoing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And for that period of time, all the way from the time that you got to your car until you pulled in, and then you got out of your car and you went up to her and then you escorted her to the vehicle and put her in the vehicle, she had this opportunity for the external, whatever that external conversation might have been.
Correct.
Okay, so that would be number one, Judge. Number two, so she has, at that particular moment in time, been put into a squad car and isolated away, as you had designed, from any external influence, correct?
Correct.
Your in-car video system was running because it had been running the entire time.
Correct.
All right. So it would have continued to have run, but for the fact that you turned it off.
Correct.
Okay. And the reason why you turned it off is because another sergeant in some way communicated to you to turn off that in-car video.
Correct.
But for that, would you have allowed the in-car video system to continue to run?
I probably would have.
Okay. And is that uncommon? Again, I want you to go outside the world of officer-involved situations. I want you to pretend for the moment that the person who's sitting in your car is not a Dallas police officer. Had that been, let's say that in North Dallas, some guy went into somebody's home for reasons that you hadn't figured out yet and shot him to death. And that person, let's make him a plumber. If that plumber was inside your car, all right, because that person had been detained, would you have turned off the in-car video system?
No, sir.
Would you have allowed that to run for evidentiary reasons?
Yes, sir.
And if that person decided to say, oh my God, I wish that I hadn't have shot that guy 30 times, I only need to shoot him 3 times, would you expect me as a prosecutor to use that as evidence to seek justice against a person who just basically made an admission?
Yes.
Okay. On the other hand, if that person said something that exonerated them and proved their innocence, would you expect the defense to use that?
Yes.
And you've been with the Dallas Police Department for a long time, right?
Correct.
You guys use this tactic as it's a good tactic because it derives evidence. Sometimes you even put 2 people in a car and you close the door, right?
I haven't done that, but I've heard of it.
Okay, and you let them talk, right?
Correct.
And tell me, what is the basis for doing that?
To hear the conversation that's occurred.
Right. It's not necessarily that you want one particular statement made or the other, but you obviously want to know what happened, right? That's in your DNA. You're a police officer.
Correct.
Okay, so is that the reason why the in-car video system would have been allowed to have been running had you not been told to turn it off?
No, I just wouldn't have turned it off because, in all honesty, that's about the last thing I do in those cars. I had just been back in a squad car for 6 weeks, so sometimes I forget.
Okay. And if you had the plumber who was just involved in a homicide in the car, would you allow people to be coming up and pulling them out of the car?
No, unless it was detectives.
Okay. Police detectives who are involved in the case, who are investigating the case?
Correct. Or other officers trying to get information.
With some official capacity with the case?
Correct.
All right, have you ever seen anybody from any of the police organizations come out to, I guess, tell you to turn off an in-car or tell you to do something to do with evidence for a plumber or a carpenter or anything like that?
No.
Do you have reason to believe that you were told to turn off the in-car video because Amber Guyger was a police officer and her association wanted that turned off?
No, I believed it was because everyone thought she was on duty.
Okay, what does that mean?
At that time, I didn't know that she was off duty.
Okay.
And in my limited time, as I've never worked an officer-involved shooting, I always thought that those conversations were private because of the rep and the attorney.
But there was no attorney present.
I understand.
And that in-car video system, even if you want to confer some sort of, I mean, that's not recognized in law, that a rep conversation, but even if you wanted to preserve the representative's communication, you shut off the in-car video system for all purposes, even when the rep wasn't there.
I understand.
Okay. Judge, that would be the line of questioning I would engage in.
Is that you being under the impression that this was an on-duty officer-involved shooting is why you earlier stated that you thought it was a mistake to begin the in-car video anyway?
That's correct.
So had you known with certainty that the defendant was off duty, would you have continued to run the video?
I believe I would have left it running and then consulted with the Sergeant Mata, to say, hey.
And would you have allowed the various people to come to the car to visit with the defendant?
No, I was running back and forth with our chain of command that was at the scene, trying to figure out what needed to be done, and that was my mistake to ever walk away from that car, and my major pointed that out to me.
I'm just curious, when you secluded the defendant to go and retrieve your car, would you have done that with a civilian?
Left them standing alone? No, I would have walked them to my car.
So, Mr. Rogers, your objections to the remaining portions of Part 10 are what?
My objection is to the line of questioning regarding an improper influence He's using those words when there's no evidence of an improper influence exerted. He's had a year to interview all these people to see if there was an improper influence exerted. So that questioning is inflammatory and not relevant. And any questioning about Mike Mata and her turning off the video is not relevant because that's out of my client's control. And so that's improper impeachment. And my only defense going forward through that is to put forth that she had requested a lawyer, and a lawyer was on the way, and it was her 5th and 6th Amendment.
Did she make that request to you, Sgt. Valentine?
I believe walking downstairs, she told me she had contacted her lawyer already.
When you were coming from the 4th floor to the open area there?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sorry, you said that was your defense. What was your objection? You just have these two: inflammatory, irrelevant, and proper impeachment.
Right, with regard to the questioning regarding outside influences and Mike Mata telling Sgt. Valentine to turn off the video, and then the hypotheticals regarding the plumber in custody, those aren't relevant to this case because they were treating this case not to her, not that she called for it, but they're treating this case like an officer-involved shooting, and so Ms. Guyger had no control over any of that, so it's improper impeachment.
And what are your objections to State's Exhibit 15?
15 is that it's not relevant, Judge. It shows very limited portions of Ms. Guyger. The only purpose of State's Exhibit 15 is to inflame the jury with regard to issues that are outside of her control. And so there's nothing in State's Exhibit 15 that is relevant. If there is any relevance, sitting in the squad car, we can't really even see her except she gets out a few times. It's more inflammatory, and the prejudicial value substantially outweighs the probative value.
Did you have a proffer for State's 15, Mr. Hermes?
Your Honor, State's 15, the legal predicate for it would be that it's a fair and accurate depiction of the scene, instead of from inside the car, though, but from above. So you can identify the individuals, and you can, unfortunately, from the positioning of the cameras in car, you can't see who's approaching the car, and you can't see the individual who's in the car, what they do outside the car. So the relevance of State's Exhibit number 15 is going to show that not only was the defendant approached, she was removed from the car, and then she was taken to a different location. I can't tell you what location, but I can tell you it's beyond the camera, where there was some interaction, and then she was returned. So it adds an additional element in which to see the same event, but from a different perspective.
Okay, let us all have our lunch, and I will let you know what questioning I will allow concerning the last portions of State's Exhibit 10, and also whether or not State's 15 will be admitted when we return from lunch. The jury has had a 45-minute head start on us, so you're going to have a short lunch today. We're going to start back at 1 o'clock.